Good evening, folks. Welcome back to Celtic Fans TV. We are live at last. Thank you for the patience there with the whole screen. Stuart has joined us. We're here to react to Celtic's first pre-season friendly against Wiener Viktoria in Austria. It finished 7-0. I hope most of you in the live chat got to watch the game. I did. Stuart didn't get a chance to watch it, so we're going to switch roles a wee bit tonight. I'm going to be the pundit. He's going to ask the questions, and we'll run through our thoughts on the game. So, Stuart, how you doing, mate? Thanks for joining us.
Hi, sorry I'm late, man. You can all blame me for the fact that we weren't on in time. I've been doing tennis all day, mate. That's been my thing. I've been watching serving and volleying and drop shots and all that. And then, obviously, chance to serve up some goodness for the Celtic fans. So happy days. I missed the game, as you say. I'm just chasing on my phone lineups and all that. So I'm going to seem ridiculously uninformed. But in a way, that's a good thing. Because I think there's probably going to be a few fans watching this that haven't seen the game tonight. So for any of you that did, if I ask kind of rudimentary questions that you'll have seen, bear with us. But Paul, I'm going to start with any performances stick out for you? Obviously saw Johnny Kenny on the score sheet a couple of times. I think Bosun Lawal's been mentioned as well as a bit of a talking point. So talk us through your kind of general reflections in the game, first of all. And also any good goals that there were.
It was one of the games... typical first pre-season friendly, lower opposition, much changed team. I was almost expecting it to be the way we've seen in recent previous seasons, where like two totally different teams play different halves, but there was only 9 subs, 2 goalkeepers on the bench. I think all the subs did appear at some stage in the game, but there's only maybe 4 or 5 changes at half time. And to be fair, with these games, year in and year out, I've watched so many of them, and sometimes they'd bore you to sleep. And it might have got that way in the second half, but definitely can't say that for the first half. I thought the team were really good. Obviously, you need to qualify all of that by the level of the opposition. You can't draw too many conclusions. It is just an exercise. It's the first game. It's all about getting minutes and legs and all the usual pre-season cliches. But I thought we were good and the intensity was there. That's the pleasing thing. I think the most pleasing thing about tonight, particularly for the first half, that the intensity was there, even though it's the first pre-season friendly. Still looked very much like a Postecoglou team. Standout.
So was the style there, by the way? Like, you know that?
Oh, the style was there.
Ange style. Aye,
yeah.
Aye, that's good.
Yeah, aye. For the word go, the pressing intensity was really, really good. I think that the standouts. Hatate played really well, I thought, for most of the first half. He got a goal. Nice left foot finish from a Forest cross, I think it was. I thought Bernabei was good. Obviously, the first time we've seen him in a Celtic jersey. Got the first 45 minutes. You can see the qualities there. Great engine, very quick. Very, very quick. That's the thing that stands out about him. Just in the first 45 minutes that I've seen him play, that the difference with Taylor, the stark difference for me looks like pace, because Bernabei is really, really quick. And the opening goal actually came from Bernabei pressing. He pounced on a throw out from the goalkeeper, won a throw in. Vio Hatate took the throw in quickly, and Johnson squared it for Johnny Kenny to tap it in. I mean, questionable defending, need to be honest, but good quick thinking, and that's another element of the game that was there, that we're so used to seeing last season, where we would take throw-ins and free kicks as quickly as we can. We know that's a big thing that underpins Ange's philosophy, and we've seen that again tonight. And then it was 2-0 and 3-0 really, really quickly. Mikey Johnson, nice left foot finish 1-on-1. I was watching a stream with no commentary, and the replays were like, it only showed you the last 5 seconds of the player finishing it, no the build-up. So,
well, that's quite good, because that's usually the bit that's missing for Mikey Johnson's game. So I think you get the right half of the highlight. Do you know what I mean?
Aye, he finished it. He finished it well. And Kenny, I think the pick of the goals, probably for me, was Kenny's second one, because Bernabei swings in a cross. The defender misses it, but he catches it lovely on his left foot, side foot almost, volley, half volley, into the far corner. and then he was robbed of a hat-trick because Cross came in a few minutes later and he nods it onto the post, and then Julien's wandered up the pitch and he bashes him at the road, like pure challenges him for it, nods it in, and runs away celebrating, didn't even acknowledge the boy, stole a hat-trick clean off him. But it was domination in the first half, mate. Victoria they barely mounted an attack. I think they maybe had one shot, no concerted spell of possession.
I mean, what kind of level of team are we talking? I don't know if you've done a bit of a dive on it, but even in the eye test, just to give a gauge of how much to read into it, do you know what I mean?
It's difficult to say, mate. In that first half, they could be MD, they could be a Scottish League 2, League 1 team. In that first half, they genuinely couldn't keep possession at all, and they posed no threat. One of the things I really liked actually about watching the game without commentary was that Joe Hart's communication was brilliant throughout the full first half. Obviously, Siegrist played the second half, and we'll talk about the changes in a minute. But Joe Hart, brilliant, talking everybody through the game.
I've still said, mate, like for all that we bought loads of good quality in last season, Joe Hart was the most important signing that we made last year. And it's good that we've kind of followed it up this summer with two players we know that are very much proven. You know, it sounds encouraging for Bernabei as well. But I think that's the big difference when I look at Celtic from the transformation that happened with Ange. It all starts with the goalkeeper, then moving forward throughout the team. And I think at times last season, if it wasn't for Joe Hart and his leadership, you know those kind of games where it's fine margins and things like that, I think that's where he would probably have crumbled. But he seems to have that. And even better than that, he seems to imbue the rest of the team with a bit of that. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's why he's vital.
Aye, that stood out tonight. Just in terms of setting the intensity as well. Constantly screaming at players to get up and press whenever they did have the ball. That's why they really struggled. We know they're a lower level side, but we didn't let them build out at all. Ideguchi was another one. His pressing was really good. Nice to see him. I think he might have been one of the few players that got 90 minutes. If he didn't, he got most of the game. There was so many changes. It's difficult.
It's always hard to keep up. Try being a commentator in games like that, mate. It's absolute murder. I'm quite interested in the Ideguchi-Hatate tandem, right? So how did the two of them seem to play together? Was there a real sense of, obviously they're both Japanese, communication, a bit of knowing each other's game, any of that kind of stuff? I know it's quite hard to tell in like the first pre-season friendly, but anything like that stand out in terms of they two together?
There was a lovely bit of link-up where I think Johnson, Bernabei, Hatate and Ideguchi were involved just before half-time. And I think Hatate overed it and Ideguchi gave him it back, and then Hatate tried to finish into the top corner, and it was inches wide. That'd have been the pick of the goals if it had gone in. It was interesting because McCarthy was playing in the deeper position, and obviously it was Hatate and Ideguchi in those more advanced central midfield positions. I think the most important thing for Ideguchi is getting the minutes, because since he's arrived at the club, he didn't really get much game time at all. The injury hampered him against Alloa, but I think he looks like he's got the qualities that Ange likes. Again, it's the off the ball stuff, the sort of aggression off the ball and closing people down. That stood out to me as a good workout for him. Again, with all of these guys, whether it be new players or players that were in fringes last season, you can't draw too many conclusions because of the standard of the opposition being the first pre-season game. But Ideguchi was good. I'm sure those minutes will help him. Hatate for me was really good, and the big thing for me this season with Hatate is, after admittedly being jaded towards the back end of last season because of coming straight from the Japanese season to here and the pressures of playing here, I just want to see him at full tilt, because I think he's got all the attributes and all the ability to be a massive player for Celtic.
Well, you see that by the way that he bossed it against Rangers as soon as he arrived in the scene, you know what I mean? See with the Japanese players in particular, and this is another thing that I think's been no talked about as much as it should have been, particularly in the kind of mainstream media, is see that ability to get players to come from a completely different culture. I've commentated J-League games, right? You hit crosses in and everybody's 5'6". You know what I mean? It's a totally different style of football. And actually the inverted kind of fullback thing, the Ange thing, is a theme. Loads of Japanese teams actually do that. But to come from a completely different style of football, different culture, different lifestyle, and to have 4 players all come in, and Idiguchi's the only one that you would say, like, jury's out a wee bit, you know? And you're looking at it and you're thinking, what is there about Celtic now that they're just able to get players in from a completely different culture and to bed in? And I think that's a particularly important thing to bear in mind when it comes to the Bernabei signing, because all right, Japan's sort of, you've got an influx coming from one country, but having proved that they can actually make sure that a player acclimates, acclimatises, gets used to the Scottish game, to the style of play for Celtic, I think that is going to be something that is going to be really, really important this year, and potentially a determining factor in whether the Bernabei signing works. But just, you've mentioned him a couple of times in terms of build-up and involvement in the game. What about the kind of, because when Juan Arango was speaking, I think most of the concerns or stuff that he was sort of thinking, right, will this kind of work, was to do with mental stuff, all of that kind of side of it. Did you get any sense of anything like that? I mean, he's with a completely new group of players, completely new squad, completely new country. But did you get any sense of just kind of character-wise what he's like for that performance?
I think you can tell that he's an intense character. I think he'll play with his heart in his sleeve, for maybe want a better phrase. As I say, his pressing was really good. I think he'd maybe 1 or 2 tackles. He'd one actually where he slid in, and I thought you can see that there's that bit in him. I think that's something that Juan said as maybe one of his weaknesses, the sort of temperament. And it wasn't a bad tackle by any means, but just because he's so intense, and he was closing down, he was just on the stretch a wee bit. So it wouldn't be surprising to see him pick up a few yellow cards this season. But no, I think it's clear to see his qualities almost immediately. And just to touch on what you're saying there about getting players to bed in really quickly, regardless of where they've come from, that will be huge this season. And Bernabei is the most stark example of that so far, because he's come from South America, and South American players at Celtic have never really hit the ground running or been any sort of long-term success. So that's going to be huge. And I think the biggest thing, the 2 biggest factors in that are that the players have such clear instructions. They know exactly what their role in the team is, regardless of where they come from, and they've got the qualities to carry out that role in the team. And I think that clarity of what their job is makes it easier when they step out onto the pitch, regardless of the pressure and the different environment and whatever their off the pitch life is like when they come to Glasgow and to Celtic. I think Ange Postecoglou's one of his biggest qualities is the players know exactly what their job is, and there's no any debate about what they're doing when they're out on the pitch.
I think that's a definite factor. And just in terms of when you're saying about Bernabei maybe being a bit intense and diving into challenges, there's obviously a fine balance to be struck. But one of the other things about Ange Postecoglou, again, that I don't think enough people have spoken about, is the intensity in defence, out of possession, and defending on the front foot and counter pressing and doing all of that kind of side of it, because that's what allows Celtic to win possession high up the pitch. And I think particularly when it comes to the European games this year, one of the things that gives me a lot of confidence heading into that is the fact that you've got a team that knows what they want to do. And the quickest way to get a goal is obviously winning possession as close to the opposition goal as possible. So if Celtic can manage to get those turnovers in high areas, in Europe in particular, I think that's going to be vital for us this season. Welcome back to Johnny Kenny. Now, it's very, very easy to look at that, as I'm doing, no having seen the game, and it's like, oh boy, you get a couple of goals, brilliant. What about the rest of his game? What about link-up, runs? Like, did you see anything from him that suggests, now, Celtic are as blessed as I can remember as being for a long time, at least since Larsson, Sutton, Hartson, maybe, in terms of the options in the striking department. But if you look at the sort of what Johnny Kenny, has he done enough to suggest that he could be in the fringes of the squad, maybe play a couple of cup games? And what about his all-round game? Because obviously I'm just seeing the goals, and you mentioned that other one that get kind of taken off him. What about the rest of it?
I think his all-round game, I mean, it was decent enough tonight. Again, it's so difficult. You can't draw any conclusions.
And what kind of player is he, by the way? Because I've never seen him play.
I don't know, mate. Maybe again, that's probably the first time that I've really seen him for any length of time, and I think it was only for 45 minutes. So it's difficult to pin him down and really draw an exact comparison. He looks like a goal scorer, that's for sure. I think maybe early in the game, his touches outside the box were maybe a wee bit slow. You can forgive him that, though, the first pre-season game, and he's not played a lot with the first team at all. I need to see so much more of him before I could determine, does he have the ability and is his quality at the level required to play for Celtic up front in competitive matches. As you say, Kyogo and Giakoumakis are the leading men there, and I don't think they're going to be challenged in any way by Johnny Kenny. I think so. I think I'd be surprised if he was to play any part this season. Might he go out on loan? I think that might be the best course for him. It's hard. It's like Liam Scales as well. Players coming in for Ireland, a lot of the time,
big jump in it.
It's a massive jump in standard, and so often you see it that they can't quite make the step up, and they go and have good careers at maybe a few levels down in Scotland. A few, by levels I mean size of club. I think it was like Niall McGinn and stuff like that. It's hard to say. He took his goals really well, but again, I'd have fancied myself for a hat-trick against that opposition tonight.
I think you get more chance than me, to be fair. I saw a wee tiny couple of comments online, and they were talking about Lawal. Mm-hmm. What did you think of him?
Good, really good.
In what way?
Won every header that he had to. Again, Joe Hart talking through it all the time. His positioning seemed really good. Again, in terms of his attributes, big, strong. Looks like he's quite mobile for a centre half. Obviously, still a young kid. I think he impressed at times in the B team last season. I think again, he's a good player. There's a lot of development in him. Again, qualify it by the opposition tonight, but I think he's got the qualities. The challenge again for him is, can he stake a claim to get on the bench and make the A team this season? Can he make that transition for the B team into the first team? That's the big opportunity for these boys that are up from the B team away with the first team on pre-season. Can they impress the manager enough that he wants to involve them in match day squads when the competitive stuff gets here? That's a big opportunity for them. I think he's probably the most likely one to be able to do that. We can talk about a couple more in the second half.
Well, there's a couple actually I want to pick out because I think in terms of players on the fringes making an impact, James Forrest is a known quantity, so I think you know what you're going to get or no get, as the case may be, from him. Mikey Johnson, goal, good finish, as you say, by all accounts. Enough there that you think that he can have a wee bit of an impact and maybe get in about it?
I doubt it, mate. I doubt it. I think I mentioned this in a video in the last couple of weeks. I feel like Mikey's moments have come and gone. I think he's had a lot of chances at different times under different managers, Rodgers, Lennon. Maybe not so much last season under Ange, but whenever he did get game time, he was unimpressive. I think his injuries haven't helped him. And I don't think, if he can keep up any sort of form and stay fit, maybe he'll play a part in the squads again. Can he make the 18? Can he get in the bench? Can he build for there? But he's at a different stage to all of these boys, the likes of Lavo, the likes of Vata, Summers that come on in the second half. They're all young kids. Mikey Johnson's not really a young kid anymore. So I think it's kind of gone for him in terms of, I mean, we might be wrong. We could be.
Sometimes
like
people can arrive in the scene late.
Wrong,
I mean, I think Stephen McManus, for example, somebody that you would have thought his chance had been and gone, and then Strachan came in and he established himself as a very important player for Celtic, albeit at a different end of the pitch. But sometimes for players, it can come round a bit later and work for them. I tend to agree with you and Mikey Johnson. Another one, and this was, I think the first video we did was the Betis game together last year. And one of the performers I said stood out in that game, and don't think we've seen hide nor hear him for the rest of the season, was Urogide. And he started tonight. Did he do anything at all that made you think, no?
no, not really, mate. I'm not trying to be harsh. I just wasn't involved a great deal. As I say, obviously, all of the backline weren't involved a great deal. He did get up the pitch a couple of times. I just think he's very raw. I think the raw attributes are there. The pace, the power. You can tell he's a big, strong boy, but I just think technically he's got miles and miles to go to play for Celtic.
No, that's fair enough. And I think that's
Liam Shaw came off the bench in the second half as well. And those were, like, I think the first two signings last season. I think Shaw was agreed before Ange even walked in the door. I don't see it, mate. I don't see it for either of the two. Shaw went on loan at Motherwell, didn't get the game time that he could have, maybe should have. I heard a couple of Motherwell fans saying that they'd like to see more of him, but no, I don't think either of those two are going to cut it.
No, I think it's good, actually. One of the things that I look at and I'm quite happy about is what at this time of year, and it's not the intensity of competitive action yet. It's really nice for Celtic to get a chance to bed into a season, to get up to speed, to do that thing without going, we need to win qualifiers and all the franticness of that. Obviously, that's another factor in that, is the fact Celtic have been able to get some business done with the confidence that the bounty of the Champions League is coming. So that's a good thing. Just to touch on the comment for Tony there, he says Rio was kind of head and shoulders above the rest. Do you think? Would you agree with that, Dick? Do you think he was the real standout today?
In the first half, I thought so. Aye, definitely. And as I said, big thing for him is just can he use this pre-season to get up to top gear, because that was difficult for him last season, given that he'd come straight off a season in Japan. So aye, terrific. I'm so excited about seeing Rio Hatate this season for Celtic in the Champions League. Obviously, there's talk about midfield being the next area we want to add in. I think I mentioned last week that if we were to bring in a big money signing in midfield, if it was in a deeper position, would McGregor move up one, and would he play aside O'Reilly? But you have the option of Hatate there as well, and I think he's got a lot of growth to come. I think he's brilliant.
Yeah, he's good.
The other thing tonight is obviously Julian played when about 5 days ago he was in Germany.
You preempted my next question, mate. I was going to say, did he look like somebody that's on the verge of kind of chucking it mentally, or did he look quite engaged?
Again, hard to say, man. He looked engaged when he was stealing Kenny's hat-trick. But then I just ran back to that feeling. I don't know, it's hard to say, man. I think that
a defender in a game like that, and especially Julian's a good player, so he's
seen his opportunity.
Play that game with his slippers on.
He's seen his opportunity. It was just open play, and he was like, "I'm in the box. See you later."
Decent.
So I don't think he's in Ange's plans in the future. I think we can tell that because he done well tonight, but I don't think he's in the manager's plans.
The one thing I would say about him is having the amount of time laid off that he had. Maybe he is one of the players that, even if he was going to feature, would maybe play in a game like this just to get him some game time. But I tend to agree with you. I think one of the other things about Postecoglou is it's like, do you buy in or don't you? If you agree a move elsewhere, then it's clear that you might not. It's an interesting comment for Stephen there. I did think before I'd considered all of the elements of the sheer volume of games that he'd played, I actually thought Rio Hatate, especially with the way he announced himself onto the scene with those goals, I thought he looked like a player that was technically up there with some of the very best we've had at Celtic, maybe in the last 10, even 15 years in terms of what he can do. I thought towards the end of the season, one of the things that was kind of happening was, and it might have been fatigue, it might just have been the fact that the way that other players were playing in the team just wasn't quite at the same rhythm that he was at by that stage of that volume of games. But it seemed like he's just his cohesion in terms of link up and stuff went a wee bit. But I think once he gets back on that same wavelength with all his teammates, I'm really, really excited to see what he can do. And a lot of talk has been who's going to replace Tom Rogic. I think that might be the guy, like not necessarily in terms of position, but in terms of the guy that's going to have the guile and 2 feet maybe instead of one to try and unpick defences and produce that killer pass. I'm wondering if he's maybe the guy that's going to do that, because there's no doubt he's technically blessed, man.
Aye, much more to come for him, definitely. Just in the second half, Stuart, Woko Vata came on, scored.
How good is it to see a Vata in a Celtic team, by the way? Feels like a proper throwback. TARDIS and that.
I got in behind, 1-on-1. I actually took a nice bobble for him, sat right up, and he smashed it into the top corner. One of the ones that had it bobbled any higher, he'd probably skied it. But
talking about bobbles, was Ideguchi's hair in a bobble, did he?
Aye.
Aye, right. Carry on.
Sat up nicely, took his goal well. Ben Summers came on. I think I went to 1 or 2 B-team games last season, and Ben Summers actually impressed me. He had a chance, 5 minutes to go on his left foot. Should possibly have took it. And Ayeti came on as well for the second half. Absolutely phoning it in.
I was talking about Julien. I mean, that's one. The other kind of, because basically my whole preparation for this was look at tweets on the way home, and the other thing I saw is just I've like multiple comments about Ajeti. It's saying, do you know what? Let's cut the losses. I've not got to the top of my head. I can't recall how long's left in his deal. Do you know that?
2 years.
What, is there still 2 years to go? Mm-hmm. Would it be worth Celtic just? And I know people will maybe think this is a weird thing to question, but just to free up a squad space and to get rid of someone that might not be engaged, is it worth maybe considering paying either a portion of that off and coming to a severance agreement, or just trying to get rid in terms of paying his contract off? Because sometimes you're better giving a platform for another player to come in. So we're playing Aloe in the cup again. Let Kenny have a run out rather than playing Ajeti just to give him a game.
Possibly. I just think it's a similar situation to Barkas in it. They both came in for the best part of 4 or 5 million quid on 4-year deals 2 years ago, and they've been absolute flops. So ideally, we would get bid and try and recoup some money, but it's not going to happen. I think the best case scenario is that we get some sort of loan move for him. But the difficulty is he hasn't played any football, and his record at Celtic, both fitness, like injury record, and his record in terms of his performances at Celtic and at West Ham beforehand. I don't know what club is going to be looking at him and thinking, you know what, he's a wise investment. He solves their problems up front. I don't know what club is going to be doing that. So I think the best we can hope for is that somebody will come and take him on loan with an option to buy for probably a nominal fee next summer. But
sadly, I don't think the Albanian Premier League wages will account for what he's hoping to rake in. Do you know what I mean? Last thing is just to talk about the second half. Was there anyone there that in a game similar to this might have pushed for a starting berth in another pointless pre-season? Well, I say pointless. There's obviously a point to it, but meaningless in terms of tangible outcome pre-season friendly.
I'm sure we'll see a few more of them. Obviously,
so who were the standouts of the young boys in particular, like the kind of academy ones?
I know Kenny's came in. No
Sligo Rovers, boy. I believe.
I think Vata was good. I think Summers was good. Again, good in that it's just young boys getting a run out against lower opposition. Know that I think they're going to necessarily have moved up the pecking order for the next friendly or whatever. But I think we'll see bits and bobs of them. Certainly throughout the Austria tour. Maybe as we sort of stage up towards the Aberdeen game, I'd fully expect it to be getting. It'll be a well at full strength before that game. But I think Vata was good. I think that the boy, is it Josh Deddy, came on as well. Was it right back? Him. He was decent. First I've really seen of him for any length of time. Mm-hmm. But again, decent in terms of what this was for the team tonight. So I think we'll see a couple more of them against Vienna at the weekend.
Good stuff. Right, unless you've got anything else that you want to bring up for today's game, I've got a wee game for you to finish
Nice.
proceedings here tonight. Right, we played Sheffield Wednesday in a friendly run about the same time last year. Might have been a year to the day.
Mm-hmm.
I've got the starting 11 for that in front of me. Right, and again, it's Fringe players. So I want to see how many of them you can name off the top of your head. And goal.
This is just the full 11, no people that are still here.
No, so there is players on this list that are still here. Some of whom we've spoken about tonight, but I want to see how many players on that
just name the full 11
you can name. Aye, go for
it. Barkas?
Yes, he was the goalkeeper.
Urugide?
He was not in the team.
Shaw
was in the team.
Sorrow played.
Mm-hmm. By the way, folk can get involved in the comments as well if they want to have a bash at this.
This was quite popular on social media. I seen it today.
I don't have much originality.
Dane Murray. Did Dane Murray play?
He did, yes.
Dane Murray. Ayeti.
Mm-hmm. Was the captain for the day, by the way.
I know, actually, I remember that. So he was.
Captain of a sinking ship that kind of came out the water again and wrote Reign Supreme.
Ayeti. I said Ayeti. So
you've got Ayeti, you've got Shaw, you've got Barkas. You got Murray. So
Taylor played.
Taylor might have played, but did not start.
Didn't start, right. Montgomery played. Midfield.
You're still missing a couple of defenders. Right back and a centre half.
Ralston played.
Another guy we saw plenty of last season played.
Stephen Welsh.
Yes.
Did Karamoko play?
He did not. Oh, we should maybe briefly talk about that, just a quick detour. What happened there? Because obviously he's left now, and it's interesting to see that that's kind of gone the way it did, because I mean, there's been these cases in the past. I think Islam Feruz was a bit different because he was essentially chasing the money kind of trail, going down south and moving to Chelsea. But Karamoko Dembele was one of those where I think he was always on the cusp of kind of breaking in, and there were flashes. But do you think it was maybe something to do with the Scottish game and his physicality or lack of it, or why did that no turn out? Do you think? Why did it not quite work out for him at Celtic? Because he's 19 now. That surprised me as well. Mm-hmm. You just think of him as this wonder kid on the cusp of breaking through. Be 19, you should really be getting a game somewhere.
It might have been physicality. I think, to be honest, I think he's one of these players that when he's been here, and I know he's only 19, still a young kid, a lot of development in him, I'm sure, but I think when he's been here for so long, and people have been talking about him since he was 14, 15, and then he did get a few games, I think, towards the end of the season under, I think it was Lennon, actually, that was here. Couple of appearances last season. I just think that when a couple of managers have seen you up close, you're not good enough.
It's interesting that, isn't it?
I think that's it, the end of it. I think obviously he's gone to France and he might knuckle down and become the player that everybody thought he was going to be, but I don't know. I just think ultimately it wasn't good enough. It's difficult to break into the Celtic team. He did have problems with injury as well at times, which I'm sure didn't help his progress. But I just think ultimately the bar's really high, and he didn't quite make it.
I think the bar's really high, and the other thing about Scottish football in particular, and even separate from other leagues of an equivalent standard, is there's a specific way that you are successful, and it's quite hard to necessarily pinpoint the exact qualities needed, like a certain level of hardness, a certain level of quick reactions, and all of those kind of things. But it's quite hard to pinpoint what those things are. But there are intangible factors you need as a footballer to be successful in Scotland. It would not surprise me at all if Karamoko Dembele goes to Stade Brestois and does really, really well, because he's moving to a culture, a style of game, and almost going in with everything to prove, but not in the way of trying to get in the team. I think he's going in there and he'll be expected to be a rotation player, at least to start with. Maybe that'll help him. and it'll be interesting to see how he does do. Going to go back to this team then. I think this might be a freebie. Did you say Sorrow?
I said Sorrow, yeah.
Aye, right. So I think you've got 6 or 7 of them now. You're missing 1, 2, 3. You're missing 3.
Not going to get. Am I going to get them?
You've done no bad, by the way. You did better than I would do.
We'll be here to an hour, I think. Keep people in the comments lively. Moffat,
yes. 2 to go. One of them's a youngster that's just no long left. Celtic midfielder.
Luca Connell?
No.
Not Luca Connell.
No.
Pass.
Do you want me to give you the last 2?
Aye, go.
McInroy and Henderson.
McInroy, yeah.
Aye. But that's
okay.
That's I'm quite impressed with the number of them you got. I would have been in a hiding to none if that had been sprung on me. So well done, mate.
Right, that is.
Reckon so. They get any questions they want us to ask that we've no spoke about? Because type in the next 37 seconds or forever hold your peace. I'll let you keep an eye on it.
Aye, John is asking, where is Dawson? Who knows? He played that Boxing Day game at St Johnstone. Never been seen since. Any other questions? Nah, I think we'll round it up there, mate.
Aye, no, all well and good. Thank you for your patience, everybody. And hopefully my tardiness doesn't become a theme, but we never know.
Yep, thanks for joining us, folks. Like the video, comment with your own thoughts if you're not watching it live, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. We'll see you soon on the next video. Cheers.